he got a job through a lot of these organisations, and the stuff he had to do was astonishingly bad. My favourite story of his was he had to teach a fetus English.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast, probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host, Chris Broad, and we're joined as always by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. Pete Donaldson himself. Pete, how the devil are you doing? What's going on?
Good morning, Christopher. I'm having a wonderful morning on a Sunday. This show goes out Sunday night on the audio feed and goes out on Monday night on the YouTube. And I'm getting ready to go and play football. The dogs are raising hell indoors, so my partner will no doubt be very pleased about that particular situation. Life is good. It's been a great weekend. I'm getting ready. I'm feeling very festive, Chris. I'm making plans for Christmas.
Festive?
It's going to be a quiet one. Yeah, I mean, what are we? November sort of 12th, 13th? We are hurtling towards another Yuletide. And I'm considering a new Christmas tree, to be honest, Chris. I don't really know. I would very much like one of those 1980s sort of silver flammable monstrosities that melted many people in their shell suits.
Why was it so dangerous? Was it because they sprayed it with the silver kind of highly flammable stuff?
I think the 80s, you probably don't remember, Chris, but the 80s were very much...
I wasn't alive, so it's hard to remember when we didn't exist, Pete.
When were you born, Christopher?
1990. Yeah, April.
Rubbish. All right, okay. I thought you were 89, and I was going to go, all right, not having that. All right, well, in the 80s, where I was at a maximum 9 years old, it was very, people were very flammable, I think, back in the day. Chip pan fires. Everybody had, on every single oven, every hob, they had a big pan full of orange sort of chip pan oil, you're crisp and dry. And it would always be there, and you'd just reuse it and reuse it and reuse it, and you'd never throw it away. And that was obviously a big risk, and the fire brigade were very into preventing people from getting set on fire. Also, we had a lot of man-made fabrics. A lot of hairspray on, all this stuff that contributed to a lot of flammable stuff. And we hadn't really got the fire retardant kind of style of Christmas tree. So we were a very flammable people back in the 80s. So we're not anymore, but I'd very much like one of those really flammable silver trees from the 80s.
I mean, my image of the 80s is neon. It's vapor.
Yes,
it's like funky music and retro kind of vibe.
It's
fire.
treatable disease and racism. That's all it was. The National Front, all that.
It was a different time. A better time.
Well, not really. If you've seen the protests in London, not really. There was There was a guy with a tattoo. He basically in England there was a big protest, pro-Palestinian protest, and there was also a sort of pro-Remembrance Sunday kind of vibe thing where a load of, let's face it, quite right-wing people turn up in the cenotaph, and they basically... I saw one guy and he had a poppy on, but he also had a very offensive political symbol tattooed onto his body.
God.
Opposing sides on the wall, let's just say. All right? I don't know how that kind of man manages to deal with that kind of level of discombobulation. So yeah, the 80s is back, but we're not quite as flammable as we used to be, is my message.
You've ruined my image of the 80s forever. I love the 80s.
No.
This whole bloody studio is built on the 80s. And now I think of fires and violence.
Fires and awful people, yeah. Well,
Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatch. Snatching the milk. Did you used to get free milk when you were a kid?
No, I didn't.
No.
Again, another great thing about
it.
the 80s. She did, yeah. I don't remember much of my childhood. I just remember lots of sandwiches.
Robot wars. Just a lot of robot. There's constant robot wars in your house. It was like the future. It was like the semi-future. Just robots hacking each other to death in the living room.
The sad truth of robot wars is they weren't so much robots as poorly built remote-controlled cars with weapons they were pretty shoddy.
Do not undercut yourself like this. Do you think Richard Branson's kids are going to be undercutting him like this, saying my dad was merely a rebadger of people's successful products? I'm not having this. Don't have a go at your fine lineage as a robot wars expert.
Oh my god! I don't know. They need to bring back Robot Wars, but with like modern tech, it would be a lot more interesting now, right? Although it would kind of just be. But I really want to film the robots in Japan. You know, those little sumo robots that are like the size of a hand, but they move at like breakneck speed, and they can sumo other robots and throw them out. If you look them up online, absolutely insane. Want to see them? They're down in like Fukuoka somewhere, so it's a bit of a journey to get down to them. But I've always wanted to see them because that, to me, is the real Robot Wars, the future of Robot Wars. Sumo wrestling, tiny robots.
The thing about the Japanese, that they obviously have a great love for the old sumo wrestling, but you do sort of think that those robots would probably be a bit more popular if they didn't do sumo, if they did something completely different and sort of like did something that the world is into, so to speak.
Like sword fighting robots? Like what's the world
do you do
into?
a lot of sword fighting? I'm thinking like we need robots that sit down and play Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. Like we need these robots aren't relatable enough. We need these blooming guys to be relatable.
You can watch American Pete play Spider-Man 2 on Twitch. That's far more enthralling than Robot
Oh my god, I'm swinging around. Oh my god. Oh god, I just smashed into a big building. I don't know why I've made him like a weird New York man.
That's the least Pete impression. The least Pete impression I've ever heard.
He's sort of got it. I can't get out of New York Boulevard with him. Hey, it's set in New York, isn't it, Spider-Man, I presume?
It is. Yeah, but what a fast-paced 5 minutes this has been. From fires
all over
and
the
violence
place.
to
the
Spider-Man and Pete.
From the National Front to Robot Wars to American Pete talking like this. Forget about it. Let's have a pizza pie.
Bring back Robot Wars.
America.
Bring back Robot Wars. The original Robot.
Bring back conscription. Bring back national service.
I filmed a Robot Cafe for the most recent video I put out, and that was pretty trippy. The Pepper Robot Cafe. You go in, and it's just a cafe that does desserts and things. And there was like 50 Pepper robots just sort of walking around. Well, they sort of roll.
That's too
They're built
many.
like humans, but they
robots.
roll on wheels, which kind of doesn't look that cool. And they have the most mediocre conversation. Like I asked one of them, I just sort of said, "Oh, my girlfriend hates me because I don't like cheese, or I ate too much cheese." And then I said something like, I was quite impressed at one point. I said, to me, Jafar wasn't the villain of Aladdin. He just had interesting ideas about reforming the city of Agrabah, which is obviously a questionable view to hold. And the robot was like, it's important to all have our views. But on the other hand, that's a pretty bad view. It kind of like shot me down. And I was like, oh, all right, fair enough. This actually, somebody's put the effort into the AI here. Like you can have a conversation with it. Just don't ask it for relationship advice. We've got a story this week from Sean, who says, hello, Chris and Pete. My name's Sean. I'm from Atlanta. Thank you for making my commutes more enjoyable with your tales and tips. When I was little, we often visited family in Japan. And on this day, on the story, we decided to go to a large public onsen with some family friends. I quickly began chilling in one of the pools, laying back and feeling like a mob boss. As I was relaxing, I was suddenly attacked by a dual water bucket assault on top of my head. What the hell? I looked up and saw my friend and his father running away very quickly and escaping the scene. Wanting vengeance, I quickly grabbed my own bucket of water and located my friend's father in a nearby pool. Without hesitation, I charged over and poured the whole steaming bucket of water on his head, serving him some swift payback. A direct hit on top of his bald head. I fell about laughing due to my own success. As my laughter subsided, I realised it was very, very quiet. It appears... Oh, shit. I needed glasses because I'd not got my revenge at all. Instead, I'd poured water on a random old man. He was now looking at me with what could only be described as a death stare. Oh, shit. I quickly started apologising in broken Japanese and backed away slowly and sheepishly. The moral of the story is always make sure you get the right person when getting your revenge. Thank you for all the great laughs and content. Sean, he was very lucky not to be murdered by a Yakuza boss relaxing in an onsen.
Do you think that, like, I mean, it's not bloody Wet and Wild, guys. It's not a goddamn, it's not a goddamn swimming pool. No tomfoolery, no heavy petting. Them's the onsen rules for crying out loud. But, I mean, the guy must have known it was an accident, surely, because it's a bizarre thing to do anyway, and B, the guy was, chigaimasen all over the place. The very definition of a Chagaimas moment. It's the Chagaimas moment.
What? The guy who just got this water tipped overhead looking up angrily, and you'd be like, oh, Chagaimas.
Yeah.
Sumimasen. Machigata. It's a mistake.
Sorry.
It's a
mistake. I'm so sorry.
I mean, fuck me, that must have been the most awkward few seconds of Sean's life. Like, the people in the pool would have instantly thought, what a bell end. Why do we let foreigners into our hot spring? Why do we let this happen? This is a place of relaxation, not revenge. You got lucky though. You got lucky. Could have been a lot worse.
Visiting family in Japan. Sean might be to outwardly appear Japanese, so they might not know what the hell was going on. Brilliant.
Imagine if it had been a Yakuza member though, all cakes and tattoos.
Yeah,
I think Sean would have been coming out alive.
I think he'd be. I mean, I don't think the Yakuza would generally regard it as being a hit, but maybe not. Maybe I don't know.
Drowning the mob boss in reasonably warm water.
Wild.
But there you go. See, did you ultimately get revenge though on your friend, on your dad? Like, did you get revenge in the end?
Killed him, kicked him down the stairs. Put him in
I murdered them. I had to get double revenge. I had to murder them in the end, and now I'm in a prison in Atlanta Penitentiary. We got a story this week, a news story about the language school industry. Yeah. Now, of course, many foreigners come in Japan. A lot of them, I would probably say the vast majority, start off here as English teachers in some way, shape or form, including myself. I was here as a teacher for 3 years on the JET programme. But there's many ways you can come to Japan as a teacher. Some ways are better than others. The JET programme is probably the best way. Interact, the second. And then it drops off pretty quick in terms of good organisations to work for. One of them, not so good organisations, or there's two, is Nova or GABA. I think they might be one and the same, to be honest, these days. But yes, and they've recently enacted some policies that have are about to make life a lot more miserable for English teachers coming to Japan, to the point that I don't know if it would be worth working for them if you do think about coming here. In fact, no, don't work for them. I know I wouldn't. Anyway, take it away, Pete. What's going on?
Are you familiar with the company Nova, Chris? The language school Nova, like a deeply. They're a leading brand in the language school industry in Japan, and they've come up with some new rules about absences in their particular language schools. If they miss lessons and there's no good excuse, actually they're basically making it clear that there are no good excuses. Penalties, basically, you will be fined up to 6,500 yen per lesson if you fail to report illness and hospitalisation, including influenza and coronavirus, medical emergencies, accidental injuries, and cancer. I mean, name cancer, for crying out loud. Put that on the bloomin' poster, Nova, for crying out loud. Death of family, bereavement and funerals, childbirth and child emergencies, accidents, and some kind of booking reassignments. Sudden illness in your booth will be subject to the same fines. According to Nova Holdings, instructors experiencing vomiting and Nova Holdings say that instructors experiencing vomiting and diarrhea mid-lesson will be treated as cancelled and fined the same amount of money. You can receive a negative paycheck in that you could owe Nova, the language school company, money rather than you receive money in your paycheck. I thought Nova went bust for this kind of stuff about 10 years ago. Or 20 years ago.
It did go bust, and I think it got bought, or it teamed up with another company called GABA.
Right.
Which is the worst sounding name, GABA.
The Ramones.
GABA's a chocolate. GABA's a form of is something that helps you sleep. A lot of Japanese chocolates have GABA in them that makes you sleepy. Not related to the school, although maybe the teaching will put you to sleep. I bet a lot of these English language sort of companies are considered to be like, and I'm not saying this company is, but there's a lot of companies called black companies in Japan, basically where you don't have the same rights as a normal organisation. There's a lot of grey areas in the way they deal with you. There's an interesting comment on Reddit, somebody reacting to this story. I said, Nova's beyond a black company. When I came to Japan years ago, my first job was Nova. I stayed maybe 3 months. I got the flu. I was ordered to stay home for 7 days, and they constantly harassed me on the phone to find my own replacement teacher. Meanwhile, I was barely conscious. And they ended up taking 50,000 yen from my paycheck for missing 7 days, then 40,000 yen for miscellaneous damages. They charged me for 7 more days than I would have made if I'd worked. I just didn't show up again. Then they threatened to take my visa. I responded, I'll have my lawyer get in contact with them, and they promptly left me alone. So the way they operate is very sketchy. They pay very low rates, and now the idea, if you're sick or something goes horribly wrong, you'll be punished for that as well, which is not good. So I really don't advise working for these companies, to be honest. But
you sort of, that's what I mean. They prey on people who don't have any other options. They sort of get excited about moving to Japan. They get excited about teaching English as a foreign language, and they find themselves in all kinds of trouble, like tied to a contract that they can't possibly work because of the insane kind of restrictive work practices. It's awful.
It's pretty bad. But yeah, there's a hefty. There's always been a good supply of people willing to come to Japan to work as English teachers, right? Because it's kind of like an easy way in. And so, yeah, there's a lot of supply. They can find folks. And I think very quickly, if people coming here to work as English teachers under these organisations, the magic disappears very fast. Like, I remember there's a episode I shot with American Pete, your favourite. He impersonated at the start of this episode.
Forget about the language schools.
It's like he's
going
here.
to kill me.
Like
he's so lovely. He just doesn't need this.
He will murder you.
Does not need
but
this.
Like
yeah,
he got a job through a lot of these organisations, and the stuff he had to do was astonishingly bad. My favourite story of his was he had to teach a fetus English. Do you remember that story?
Yeah.
Where he worked for it's Ikaiwa. It's an English language conversation class, Ikaiwa. And I also did an Ikaiwa every Monday after school. I volunteered, except I kind of didn't. They sort of paid with like dinners at their house, because I couldn't legally accept money because I was working for Jet. I could legally do it, but I could have lost my job on Jet. Though they did occasionally slip me like 1,000 yen, and it didn't equate to any of the time and resources I dedicated to that.
Hide it in the cake. Hide it in the dinner. Oh, there's a
drop
little
it on the floor.
500 yen coin in here.
I like the Ikaiwa because the people there were kind of like their 30s and their 40s, 50s, and they're people that actually wanted to learn English. So for me, it was the antidote to working as a normal English teacher with students that couldn't give a toss about the language or being in the room.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, there is hope for learning English in Japan, and this is my hope.
Some people do actually want to do it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But Pete, he one of his Ikaiwas, he did a class where he would like teach babies words and stuff. And one day a mum walked in with like a pregnant belly, and she was like, I want you to teach this fetus words. And he had to like go down next to her stomach and sort of say red. And he told me he did like hand gestures for different colours. He'd be like green, red, and the woman would be like, oh, I can feel the baby kicking. It's learning.
I mean, it's like I think that Pete has incredible patience, and he's clearly a loving man. I've met him a few times. He's absolutely lovely. B, that's me prefacing all of the accents I did earlier. But B, I don't think that kid's gonna have a very nice life. A lot of pressure on their plate.
We taught you how to do colours from before you were born.
We went
you still
through
can't
this
do it.
2 trimesters in.
Oh my god! And my favourite bit is Pete has this awful job in Niigata where he works at a shopping mall and he doesn't get paid properly. The guy just keeps forgetting to pay him, and eventually he quits. The guy goes mental at Pete, like, "How dare you? How dare you leave?" And then he meets this British guy in Yokohama, and he's like, "You'd be a perfect match for our school." And then he's like, "We're going to build a relationship that truly stands the test of time." And at the end, he shook Pete's hand. He said, "Pete, welcome home." And Pete then goes, he said, "Welcome home," and shook my hand. It was the shittest job I've ever had. And the man apparently put Pete through hell and worked him into the ground. And I think it was another like this sort of a black company where a lot of the rights and rewards and salaries are sort of not there and not in place. So please be very careful. If you're coming to Japan to teach, The jet program is the gold standard. That's the best way. I don't know if I would have come to Japan if I didn't get on the jet program. I might have considered Interac, but but Interac's another option. Anything else, I would treat very skeptically. GABA's another one, but I've not met many folks who've had the best experiences working for GABA, which is this organisation here that is threatening potentially. This is all true. If this is all true, to fine people for being like physically sick or what was it in the document? If you've got cancer, you got to pay us some money.
Yeah, all similar kind of vibes really. And you're and if you get diarrhea when you're working, you instantly get fined, which really is compounding, adding insult to injury. I think it's fair to say.
Getting fined for that for that happening in class would be the least of my worries, I think. But be very careful. Be very careful.
Yeah, do you want to accept money from a man who's diarrhea and all the best? Yeah, I'll give you the cash society, mate. I'll give you it now. Yeah, you want that? Yeah. You want to touch what I'll touch? Yeah, brilliant. Have it.
Oh my god! Well, go and watch the. If you are interested in teaching in Japan, I've got 2 videos on that on Abroad in Japan. One is about my own experience, and one's about Pete's. Go and check them out. Really interesting stuff. I think mine will hopefully make you want to go, and then Pete's will completely put you off. So maybe they'll balance it out. It'll cancel it out. But this doesn't bode well. And maybe it's a sign that the English Eikaiwa companies are struggling once again as they were in the last decade when a fair few of them went under. We'll be back in just a moment, guys, with your stories, comments and questions in the Fax Machine.
Wow.
And we're back with the Fax Machine. What do we got this week from our listeners, Mr. Dawson? Fill us in.
We got a message from Liz G from Texas. Yeehaw, etc. Hello, Chris and Pete. 2 years ago, I discovered the delicious peach-flavoured Kit Kats in one of those fun snack subscription boxes you can get online, and I've been obsessed with finding them again. My husband and I will be in Tokyo in December, and I'd absolutely love to find some, but my fear is it's a seasonal flavour and won't be available in the winter. My very serious question to you is, where can I get my hands on some peach parfait Kit Kats while I'm in Tokyo? Kit Kat obsession aside, thank you so much for feeding the love of Japan through your podcast and YouTube videos. Liz G from Texas wants some special peach Kit Kats. We're going to be talking about Kit Kats on the next show. There's been a Kit Kat
heist.
Yeah, I wasn't going to be so bold as a heist. I was a reassigning of stock, let's say. I was trying to keep it nice and whet the appetite, but not too much. But yeah, a lot of Kit Kats have been nicked. You're going to be hearing about it on the next podcast. But is there like a Kit Kat in the same way that we've got M&M World in Leicester Square in London? And I imagine if you're really bang into M&Ms, that's the embassy. That's a place to go. That's your museum, effectively. But is there like a kind of Kit Kat towers where all of the walls are Kit Kats and the
Kit Kat
things
towers
that are holding the joists are exposed Kit Kats, etc.?
Well, there used to be the Kit Kat chocolaterie, which I always found a really difficult word to say. Chocolatory. And maybe that's why it's no longer there. It's gone. It used to be in Ginza, and it was cool, but it's no more. It's gone. No more chocolaterie for anyone. But what I'll say is, if you do want to get Kit Kats in Japan, the best place to do it would be Don Quixote anywhere. Actually, all Don Quixotes are pretty well stocked with Kit Kats. I don't know why. I don't know the science behind it, but that's where you go when you want Kit Kats of all flavours. And if you want to try the best flavour, it ain't peach parfait, it's sake Kit Kats. I had an unhealthy addiction to those a few years ago. Also, wasabi. Wasabi works really well. The subtle spiciness of I'm getting hungry now. I haven't had dinner. I need to go to Don Quixote after this and buy all the Kit Kats.
The nenext Kit Kat show is going to be so short because Chris has to go to dinner. He's starving. Absolutely starving. Wasting away, that lad.
I remember one night I ate about 10 wasabi Kit Kats in a capsule hotel and I couldn't lie down for like 3 hours. It was just
Did you eat them whole? Were they spiky? Did you not even bite them?
Just the spiciness. It was just pure chocolatey oil and wasabi awfulness, and it just delicious. But my God,
without a cup of tea, I think Kit Kats can be found wanting a little bit. I don't know anybody apart from maybe the Japanese who can just pile through a big selection of Kit Kats. After a while, it does start to get quite. I don't know. Nestle chocolate isn't always the best, but with a cup of tea, I could hoover up 50 of them.
50. You're a madman.
50 Kit Kats.
You're
I'm
a
like
madman, Pete.
Cool and Luke in Cool and Luke. Where he eats all those eggs.
Oh dear. We got a story from Vicky, who says, "Hello, paradoxical Pete and conundrumical Chris." God damn it. Let's keep the alliteration simpler.
Yeah.
Just, I will
Not
be in
this early in the
Japan
morning.
soon with my girlfriend of 6 years and counting. We love Japan and its culture so much that I've decided it's the perfect place to propose to her. Well, hey, I'm a little bit nervous. I hope she doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm a little bit nervous, but I know she's the one. By the time you read this, she'll have given me her answer. Question for you both. Where do you think is the most romantic place to go in Japan? Thank you, lads. Keep up the good work, Vicky. I would say I find most people either propose or do something romantic around Mount Fuji, around Kawaguchi Lake. Seems to be the place, but then it's kind of not romantic if you don't see Mount Fuji. It's just like a cloud of nothing. So it's a risky option to go for.
Yeah,
but definitely the best one if you can coax Mount Fuji out of its shell. What would you say, Pete?
Ooh. I mean, apart from the usual Shinjuku train station, you know what? That Ueno Park's quite nice. I've not really sort of spent that much time there before. I went to the wrestling, and like it's got some quite nice places around there. I think the Palace is quite close, isn't it? But yeah, I'd have a crack at that if you're doing just Tokyo. Otherwise, get a little deer to have the ring in his mouth for the old in Nara Park, maybe. I don't know.
Perfect. I was just down in Nara Park, and my God, those deer, they're very ravenous when they see those crackers.
I don't know how because like in dog cafes and stuff, they some of the dogs will have different collars on to denote that they're not allowed certain foods because they're allergic, or no food at all because they're little fatty boombatties. But the deers just keep eating, don't they? They just never stop.
Apparently they're quite malnourished there. I read a report the other day that the poor old things are quite malnourished. They weren't after Natsuki spent
biscuits all day.
Millions on those crackers. Natsuki fed all the deer, I think, in Nara Park during our recent trip down there.
Yeah.
Which I'll talk about in the next episode.
We'll talk about your trip the next episode because I'm fascinated at Natsuki's trip to Osaka, which is just excites me.
It was
terribly.
good. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was his first time there.
Nice.
I don't know how Natsuki's not explored half these places. Very bizarre. But maybe I'm the same. I haven't been to your hometown of Hartlepool.
It's good.
But then
actually, yes,
comparing Hartlepool to Kyoto and Osaka, maybe that's
we got some nice parks. Strawberry Ward Jackson Park, for crying out loud.
Oh, dear. And on that note, and on that note, it's time to say goodbye. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming in to abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube, guys, with hashtag Fax Machine, and we'll pick it out and feature it in this section. But for now, wherever you might be out there in the big wide world, have yourself a great few days, and we'll see you right back here to do it all over again on the Abroad Japan podcast. Bye for now. Have a good one.